What's up? Forgot to get my mic down. Sorry about that, guys. All right, so guys, it is just me tonight. Uh, so y'all guys are hanging out with Logic. So welcome to Just the Guys podcast, where our mission is simple. It is to bring back shame, because shame is the feedback necessary to bring correction to what's destroying our communities. And what's destroying our communities starts with bad ideas that really go unchallenged. So guys, make sure you hit that like button, share, subscribe, and join the Shamers Club if you want to support the work that we're doing here. Everyone has the Do Funny flu tonight. One of them really does have the flu, but you guys are going to hang out with me for a little bit tonight. So make sure you stay tuned in. We've got a really good conversation. And I'll invite some of you guys up tonight too as well, because I want to ask the question. I really think this deserves a lot of attention. It actually has been getting a lot of attention recently, but what is Black culture? And more importantly, what does Black culture believe? Because culture isn't just music, food, slang, or aesthetics. Culture shapes a worldview, and worldview determines how people see responsibility, success, family, money, power, and the future. Recently journalist Frank Zanu, he's also a YouTuber, went viral for saying Black culture or African American culture doesn't really exist. Now, I may not fully agree with the framing, but I do agree with the deeper point that he's making. Culture is not inherited automatically. It's formed by ideas, incentives, and beliefs over time. So the real question isn't whether Black culture exists. The question is what worldview has been cultivated, protected, and rewarded inside of Black culture. And I'm asking you guys, when you think of Black culture, what are the first things that come to mind, and why is that? Now, historically, when Black Americans leaned into self-reliance, building families, owning land, running businesses, schools, churches, and even transportation, Black Americans made a lot of progress right here. That didn't mean life was fair. It meant there was a belief that agency mattered. But somewhere along the way, that worldview gave way to something else, a grievance-based framework where victimhood becomes identity, dependency becomes compassion, and accountability became oppression. And that shift didn't happen by accident. It was taught, reinforced, and institutionalized, maybe through education, through music, through film. Something enforced this. So tonight we're going to walk through a conversation with Frank Zanu and Dave Anderson, in which they explore this idea of culture and history. And I'd like to know your experience. So I'm gonna drop the link also in the chat. So I'd like to know your experience with Black culture, what it is, and what you perceive it to be. But before we get into that discussion, I want to talk about a couple of things that has been happening over the course of the week. Because some of the news that's out right now. The first, as you may have heard, President Trump, Donald Trump, was in Baltimore this afternoon. I think he may still be there as the Army-Navy game was being held, or is being held at M&T Bank Stadium. I want to share with you guys the singing of the national anthem. So here we go. It's at M&T Bank Stadium. You gotta say the O if you're in Baltimore for the Orioles. guys. I just I love being an American. There's something there's nothing like being an American. I'm just so grateful to be here in this country, and that's where I start with everything is from a sense of gratitude. And a little fun fact about me, I don't know if you guys knew this, but I produce music as well. I, musician, drummer. And I actually made this song. I was sampling that song, "Proud to Be American." I sampled this. You can see 13 years ago. I published this. So I'll let you guys check it out real quick. Hold on. All right, that's enough. Let me know. Let me know what you guys think about my little song in the chat. But yeah, so I produced music back in the day, but I just love being an American. Like there's no other place that would be that I'd rather be. But yeah, so Trump was at the Army Navy game. Of course, the politicians here have been on Trump's case about coming to Baltimore. Now, you know, they said clean up his city first, and we'll see. But city's still not clean. But I'm glad Trump came, and it was cool. All right, so the other thing that's been happening this week, you see, I have on my Maryland Man shirt. And so I have on my Maryland Man shirt because this week, it says I'm a citizen, taxpayer, and legal. Because the guy being framed as a Maryland man has been released. He's been released by a liberal judge. So this is my friend. This is my friend Tori Snow, and you can follow his channel on at Snow in the Know. And here's what he had to say, and I agree with him about this, about the Maryland man being released.
So this is footage of Kilmar Abrego Garcia. A judge ordered him released from detention. This is him returning home. Family's excited to see him.
Private property, guys. You gotta stay off the lawn.
Okay, so that's the release of Kilmar Abrego Garcia. I am frustrated by this. This is what I'm frustrated with. Like, there's a whole process. A judge ordered him released. In case you're catching up, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, suspected MS-13 member, currently facing charges for human smuggling, human trafficking. I am frustrated with these guys here, right? This is your Maryland federal congressional delegation. Chris Van Hollen, who's the ringleader on this, of course, notable Congressman Johnny Olszewski, who just announced his run for Congress, Sarah Elfreth, Kwesi Mfume, Glenn Ivey, and Senator Angela Alto-Brooks. All of these people, like, practically burned the building down trying to get this man released. This is actually them at the ICE immigration facility, and they spent so much time advocating for Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who, in my opinion, doesn't deserve all of the energy that he's getting, right? He's not an American citizen. I personally dislike this man because he beat his wife. And if you read the whole thing, that whole situation, I feel like we're downplaying the fact that he beat his wife, made her bleed. And her excuse, by the way, she came out and said, oh, well, he was just stressed. He was stressed because of immigration. He was stressed because we were having, financial troubles and we're raising kids. And that's why I filed 2 police reports after he beat me and, ripped my clothes off and all. Like, this is personal for me, so I have zero sympathy for this guy. I am frustrated that we have politicians, both in for Maryland, representing us in Washington, D.C., politicians representing us in Annapolis that literally do not care about American citizens. And we never see this kind of effort and energy going into keeping people safe. We had the governor of the state of Maryland saying, well, I believe in the Constitution, I believe in the rule of law. It is a constant pattern that liberal progressive patterns have put people back on the streets that should not be on. Remember that woman that was stabbed to death on the subway? Someone released from jail that should not have been released. The guy that was carjacked putting his baby in a car, somebody that had stolen a car and was released from jail. All the Democrats do is put people onto the streets. They're literally keeping our streets hot, and they will use any excuse possible. Oh, well, it's this, or we have to focus on this, we have to focus on this. And we, the citizens, have to pay the price for this. They will never advocate on our behalf. They better watch out, because the only thing standing between me and a gubernatorial run is my wife. And when she sees stuff like this, it's going to frustrate her. And I'm telling you, she's going to wake up one morning and she's going to say, Tori, let's go file. So this is footage of.
Well, there you have it, guys. That's Tory Snow. He's over at Snow in the Know on YouTube. Definitely check him out. But at what point do you say enough is enough? And because again, these politicians really don't care. And this is kind of one of the impetuses for me running for office when I ran back in 2020. If you don't know my history, I ran for Baltimore City City Council president, and it was really sparked from a lot of things. One, where was my money going in local politics? Baltimore City property taxes were the highest in the state, or still the highest in the state. The education system is failing those children, and it's mainly because of low expectations and lack of accountability. It's really become a slush fund for the academic elite. There's the business and the industry of education, and there's a lot of people just getting rich. I mean, you got a CEO that's making she was making $400,000 compensation package. Her car was paid for, her children going to private schools, and the kids in the school system are failing. They're just being promoted, passed along without basis of understanding, but she's touted as doing a great job, mainly because she's a Black woman. And those are the things that I was upset with as a citizen and resident of the city. And at some point you got to say, I got to take action. And so I did. I ran for office, and it was the first time. It was when Trump was running for re-election, so it was 2020. So even with his bad name, we did see an increase in votes for the Republicans. Which was kind of cool. I got 42,000 votes in Baltimore City. I lost, but I definitely learned a lot, and I did later go on to sue the Baltimore City Public Schools for social promotion, the grade changing, those things that are really holding our kids behind. So yeah, I mean, that's a little bit about my history. You guys can look it up. I've been out here trying to do something. But guys, if you make sure you hit that like button, share, and subscribe to Just the Guys podcast. All the fellas tonight they have the Do Funny flu. And one of them does have some big news coming out. I'm not going to share what that is just yet, but one of the panelists that you normally see, he's going to go on a hiatus for a little bit, and we'll see him back in a little bit. But guys, if you want to respond to the question today, what is Black culture? What has been your experience with Black culture? Definitely, hit the stream link there. We'll have you on. But we're going to jump into this conversation with Frank Zanu and Dave Anderson here in just a second. I saw a comment from someone here. Where is it? She was responding. Yeah, here, Ebony. So Ebony, what is Black culture? Invention and innovation from the soil to the stars, including the body, resilience, creativity in arts and music, physical intelligence like sports, to name a few. Not innovation from soil to the stars. I'm not sure what you mean by that, but yeah, I appreciate the response. So yeah, let's go ahead and go into this conversation with Frank Zanu and Dave Anderson. I'm not sure if you guys seen the full conversation with with Frank Zanu and Dave and the panel, but Dave Anderson actually went and had a one-on-one with Frank Zanu, and we're just going to kind of play through this, stop and start. I'm going to stop it at the spots that I kind of get annoyed with, but and I do consider Dave Anderson a friend. I know he's been on the opposite side of some of the other panelists that I have on the show, but I do think discourse is necessary. I think it's it should be a requirement. We should be able to share ideas and not want to fight each other at the end of the day. And here's Momo saying, Black culture as a white man that looks at it is more about being honest about your feelings and having fun and knowing how to, in all situations, is what I feel the culture is best about. So that having fun, that is going to be the theme for Metro Conservative Media next year, is have fun. Because I have noticed, though, being in politics and being in like this space and seeing all the things that are going on in the world, if you get attached to those things, it makes you bitter. It makes you you hold a grudge and those type of things. Guys, we got to remember to have fun, and that's one thing I will say I've definitely learned from Trump. Especially when he did the poop meme over the No Kings protesters. Like, that guy's out there just having fun, man. These guys, they're beating him up verbally every day and attacking him legally and all these other things. But this guy's just out here having fun. And I think, that's the one thing we should, particularly as conservatives, whether we agree with each other or not, we should be out here having fun because, at the end of the day, what matters the most is family, your faith. And if you're doing right by those, in those things, then, we're all around the path, on the right path. So let's go ahead and get into this real quick. So start here.
Came about a month ago. Yeah, we were in New York. I thought they were going to have 45 minutes. First, he ambushed me. 4 brothers against me. 3 hours long conversation that never wanted to stop. But I got a very special gift from David. He signed his book, which has just come out. Take a look at this. I have just started, but somebody shoved 107 days into my hand, so that interrupted.
So 107 Days, of course, is the book by Kamala Harris. And I actually started listening to that book too, 107 Days, 107 Days. It's as much as it's about as much of a joke as you would imagine. So, but yeah, it is. All right, so let's go here.
So this is what I believe it's the most effective way, okay, for us to see, can we bring a new thinking? And so, as you've seen so far, what I do is simple. I try to question the answers that I grew up hearing, learning, knowing, and now being in the United States, all right?
Yes.
So I'm going to put you in the hot seat.
Yes, sir.
When I sent you the topic, I simply said, there is no difference between blacks in Africa and blacks in America. By blacks in America, I'm referring to specifically Black Americans.
Yes.
I said there is no difference at all. So I'm going to go to that.
Okay.
This took me about a year when I started thinking about this topic, but I was waiting for the right person with whom I can discuss it.
Right.
So it's interesting that he made the connection, because we oftentimes, especially in Black culture, we talk about the history of blacks and how history was lost. And it's interesting that he's making a connection that there's no difference between blacks in America and blacks in Africa. I just from a from a framing of the conversation, I really just thought that was interesting. I actually never really thought of it in that terms, but Frank Zanu's been around the world, so maybe he has a different perspective.
Right. So after coming to the studio, I said, no, it's got to be David. So the original topic I had, I said, no, let me hear from you. And so notes are taken over the year.
Yes.
I have it here so I don't miss anything.
Certainly.
And I would like you to respond the same way we did it in the studio.
Absolutely.
All right. Here is the first case. African Americans or Black Americans, and you are, and I want the audience to know, Dave like to have rather foundational Black Americans.
Yes,
so
sir.
he refers to himself as an FBA, foundational Black American.
Yes, sir.
So I may be using the Black American because that is a-
Interchangeably, I'm okay with that. I understand.
Right. The big question in your mind, what is the difference? What is the difference between African Americans in the United States and Africans on the continent?
Well, the one thing that I will say is Africans on the continent, Frank, have a deep-seated tradition that they've been able to keep and protect, even though Africa as a whole, all 54 countries pretty much are colonized. You have traditions and dances and things that are rich in culture that goes back thousands and thousands of years prior to recorded history. That is a huge advantage over what we had to create from scraps and genetic engineering, overbreeding, all the things that happened to foundational Black Americans over the course of 400 years. I think that the problem has always been, just to what you said when you were with me in New York, is that there is a severe disconnect and that we don't really have that bridge, but we have been colonized in different ways.
So I don't know. So because I always get, maybe I have a disconnection or something, but I always get framed as not being Black from most Black Americans, from Black culture. I can't dance. That's one thing I can't do. I can play drums though, so I do have rhythm. So dancing, if dancing was a cultural thing or an element of Black culture, I definitely don't have it. But other things, I remember growing up, I grew up, I grew up in a small town, but, grew up in Black church, grew up all around Blacks. Now the school and everything that I went to was predominantly white. But one thing I did though, I excelled academically, and, I didn't get my first F until, high school, and it was a failed health class. I just think it was because the teacher didn't like me. I failed health. So every other class I got A's in, and that was the only F I got, only non-A I got in all through my high school, my K through 12 career, if you call it that. And it was a fail. So I graduated at the top of my class, but the remarks I would get from my family would be like, "You're setting the bar too high," or "You're smart, you're making us look bad." And, when it comes to like Black culture, it's like, so what is it that I'm supposed to do? Like, am I supposed to not, achieve academically? I liked to learn. I've always been curious. And in general, like I just like asking questions. I like to know. And I've always been just an observer of things, right? I never, even though this is a little bit different for me, sharing my opinion, sharing these things, it comes because I've observed a lot of different things, and people don't know I even know I have ideas because I generally would never talk. I would just I would just listen. But I just say that to say, like, throughout my years growing up, like, Black culture was represented to me as you're supposed to be a certain way. You're not supposed to talk a certain way. You're not supposed to look a certain way. You're not supposed to achieve a certain way, right? And I played football, so you're supposed to just be a dumb football player. Like, I played football, but I was smart. And I actually went to college. I went to Benedict College, not on a football scholarship. I went on an academic scholarship and played football. So it was just one of those things. Like, am I not supposed to achieve? And to me, it was like the academics part. I considered that normal, and that's what led me, further down the line. We're talking about me suing the education system. It's because I believe, as a culture, we should have a higher standard of education. We should demand more from ourselves, and not necessarily the systems per se, but we should have higher expectations of ourselves. And I don't know. I don't know. So let's continue. But yeah, let's continue.
When you look at how families have been impacted with all of the propaganda, the media, firestorm of you need to be independent. You've got, the black wave of feminism, which in and of itself has been proven to be funded by the CIA, which really interesting. You start to see the erosion of the black family. And what I find very interesting from a historical perspective is J. Edgar Hoover actually said the two biggest threats to America is the rise of a black messiah and black unity. What is more unified than a black family? So if you disrupt that, then you get all the chaos that has come after that.
Now, I disagree a little bit with Dave here because he conflated, I believe, two things. This is why we talk about communist subversion on this channel, because one of the aspects of communism, they wanted to have black Americans within America. That's just redundant. So they wanted to have blacks within America isolate themselves and form a nation within a nation. Now, this was a communist secession plan for blacks in America. Instead of adopting American culture, which is built off family, having a faith, having a worldview that presents independence and self-reliance, the communists took that idea and perverted it into saying blacks as a whole need to quote unquote unify under this kind of nation building activity and do it in a way that rejects American culture. And so this right here, so he's right in the sense that the black family is the the foundation. What's more unifying than a black family? Well, of course, right? There's if you have the family, regardless, black, white, Chinese, is the first foundation of order, government, community, sense of responsibility. But then when you redefine that, which is what communists tend to do and socialists tend to do, is redefine terms. When you redefine that to something else, right, it then removes the original intent and then puts this kind of blanket covering over what we now see as the black unification. Now, do blacks need to unify? Unify based off what is the question. If it's just skin, then we're being superficial, right? If it's a set of values, then what makes the values that we'd adopt different from those prescribed in the Constitution? And if you missed the conversation we had with Davon Love, it's kind of this thing of what are we looking for different than what exists? Davon was making a point of we need to study ancient civilizations and ancient cultures to figure out, what they were doing that worked, or what these black nations were doing. And then when you look at, what the founding fathers did and what they did to create the country, it's like, well, they did that work there. Let's continue to build on that. Instead, it's like that work, the work that the founding fathers did, it doesn't matter, and we should do something else. I really don't get it. But yeah, let's continue.
That over the past 40, 50 years. So I think those are distinct differences.
All right. Slavery did happen.
Certainly.
So, of course, and I'll say our because, of course, some of my families were taken away too.
Sure.
So slavery happened. Great-grandfathers were in slavery. Here's my question. What would one say if the question is asked, what is the problem of the black American in America as we speak? What is the problem?
The problem with the black American or black America as we speak today is not slavery. Mm-hmm. The problem is indoctrination, and the problem is we don't have an opportunity to separate culturally from every and anybody. And here's what I mean by that. We don't control our media. We do not control our police. We do not control our farming. We do not control any means of growth and sustainability.
Now, all these things we gave up, right? Especially in the early 1920s, 1930s, especially in the 1960s, with the introduction of a lot of the civil rights. Now, a lot of the separation we had was by force. I mean, you talk about the South and Jim Crow, but it's like even during Jim Crow, like blacks were better off, more independent. We had our own. I mean, we talk about all these communities, Harlem. I mean, they always bring up Black Wall Street, but there's been so many others across the country that we just, it's like we did have our own. We had our own bus lines. We had our own schools and education. And I'm always a big advocate for, if you guys haven't heard of Julius Rosenwald, him and Booker T. Washington went around and built hundreds of schools for black education, where it was black teachers, black in black communities, black books. They did this in America for blacks to achieve. So we had our own industry when you come just black people or blacks in America, but all of this was given up. And I don't know if we're advocating now for segregation again, or if it's something that I don't know. I don't know. Says culture comes from unity of a nation. I can agree with that. So we have American culture, but again, this is one of those communist subversion tactics, is to say, let's continue to reject. Let's reject American culture. Let's reject, the ideals in the way of life, when this same culture, the same American culture, has lifted so many, especially black Americans, and despite, individual racism or community racism or whatever, and despite all of that, blacks have been able to achieve. So let's continue.
Ability to be culturally solid amongst ourselves, and that in and of itself, we're the only group in America.
So let me address this right here, and thanks for the comment, Ebony, because this is the other part that I have concerns about when it comes to black culture, and we'll see it a little bit more later, I think, in the video. But you brought this comment up, so I want to say, so more than 150 towns being strategically destroyed isn't just giving up. And Frank asked this question later on too, but it's one of those things: is why was it allowed to happen? What is it about black culture, if we're going to call it that constantly allows itself to be taken over and destroyed? What is it about the culture that allows that to continue to happen, if that was the standard? It's just a question I have. I'm curious. Again, as I said earlier, I'm just curious. I don't know the answers to this stuff, but what is it about the culture, black culture, that if we should be able to defend ourselves, period? And you're saying the government had bombs. Well, I mean, I don't know.
That while everyone has to deal with everyone, I have Jewish friends and business partners, I have Asian friends and business partners, I have African friends and business partners. The difference is no one is so ingrained and involved where they are sharing more of the profits, more of the structure, more of the say-so, than when it comes to other people prospering and benefiting off of our growth or lack thereof. When you look at things like the 13th Amendment, everybody focuses on, yay, Lincoln freed the slaves. But when you look at it from a historical context and you read the Constitution, which I know you have, the 13th Amendment says there is no slavery in the United States. Slavery is completely illegal, asterisk, unless you commit a crime. So how do I make sure that I'm able to get enough people to run this now profit center that is slavery. Slavery didn't end, it just adapted, it changed, it transformed. And if 1 in 3 people from, you can go, my lifetime, forget everything else, my lifetime, the 1994 Clinton-Biden crime bill, which said 3 strikes, you're in for life. If you've got a piece of crack the size of a quarter, you're going up for 25 years. And the person who said that has a son that had crack all over his room with a prostitute. There are all these things in place to keep us at each other's throats, arguing about nonsense, depending on a system, being told that we are less than. The history of American history starts with the default being whiteness, and not the fact that we built this country, not the fact that major inventions, by and large, at least 80 to 95%, depending on whose estimation, came from foundational Black American minds, but we weren't allowed to patent a lot of stuff. All of these things make you feel from birth that you're inferior because...
So, no, when you talk about history, there is, like, it's like, what is history? But when it comes to American history, there's more that's untaught than taught. We know that. First off, family history should be the main history that we know. And when it comes to history, it's hard to fit everything into a textbook or into a conversation. I remember this. I remember I had a friend over here from the UK, and we went to Philadelphia, and we went to Independence Hall. And Independence Hall, of course, we got the Liberty Bell, and you're talking about in there. He's seeing all these things about independence, and he's from the UK. He's British. And he said, "You guys are talking about independence. What are you talking about? What are you claiming independence from?" I was like, "Are you serious?" I was like, "Are you serious?" Because it was like the British, like we were claiming independence from the British, and I thought it was just interesting in the fact that to us, that is something that is common knowledge, but to the British, this was just another war, and they lost the country. It was a non-thing because the British had a major empire across the world. They were fighting multiple wars, and of course, we call it the American Revolution. They call it something else over there. But it's just kind of interesting that when you think about history, it's impossible to teach everyone everything. And again, I think family history is the most important thing. So the breakdown of the family is is a major key when it comes to identity, because all of this really does come down to is who am I? What am I? Like, it's your identity. And I remember I went to his house in the UK, and I wonder how many of you guys have it, right? It's like on his wall at his parents' house, he had a, just kind of like a succession of, people like of his grandfather. He's like, yeah, that's my great grandfather. He worked in the coal mines in the Black country, and and Black country is, if you go to kind of the middle of the UK there, that's where coals were, the coal mines were. You can go into them. They call it the Black country because everybody's covered in coal. So it's, but it was just interesting that he could trace this kind of lineage down, and that is history. That is identity. But we claim history to be, kind of these massive events that happen that shape, and we allow those things to shape our narratives, and attach an identity to that. And I think we do ourselves a major disservice when we just look at events and try to gain an identity from it, when our real identity should come from within the home. And the breakdown of a family, if we don't have that lineage, we often struggle. That's why, remember, families had the family Bible or family, or the family Bible is just, names, born to who, born to, and those things have been are being lost. But you're right, rational minority. The Brits were the first to abolish slavery at a great cost to their empire. You're right, and just off the coast of America, off the Africa. Even the Americans before the country was even a country, the U.S. colonies were sending ships, naval ships, to stop the slave trade. So you're right. All right, let's continue.
The second you come out, there's all of these categories and things that happen, and there's nothing on the other end culturally from a human perspective to reinforce it. And I will always challenge my foundational Black American brothers and sisters and say, I find it very troubling that so many of us spend so much time talking about, oh my goodness, they're taking history out of the school. They're taking Black history out of the school. My Jewish friends don't have Jewish history, in their schools. None of the other friends that I have that are of any other culture have
Cultures learn that at home.
Their history highlighted in their schools, because history and cultural responsibility should start at home. If somebody wants to touch on it, that's fine. But if they pulled the history out of the schools, there's so many of us who contradict ourselves. In that we'll say, well, the white man's the enemy, the government's out to get me, but then you send your child to a government-run school and you want your enemy to not only indoctrinate, but then teach your child about who they are better than you. That to me.
Before I come back to where you said, when I ask, what is the problem that anybody, if the question is asked, what is the problem of the Black American? And you said how you are not in charge, and then you listed all the things. Before I come to that,
Sure.
I'm glad you used the word problem. Now, this is what I understand when anybody says there is a problem with a person, a place, or a thing. There is a problem. When you say there is a problem, it means once upon a time, that place, that thing, or that person
Let us know what the
didn't
problem
have
with
that
the
condition,
Black
which is
culture
now being
is.
described as a problem.
Correct.
Yesterday, I didn't have a toothache. I ate very well, right? This morning, my tooth is aching.
Right.
I would go to the doctor and say, I have a problem.
Right.
How do I know I have a problem? Because yesterday, I didn't have the toothache.
Correct.
So the question I'm going to ask is this. Where, outside the United States of America, where on Mother Earth, including the 54 countries in Africa, where can you describe to say that blacks living here do not have the problems you have just described? Number two, when did blacks never have these problems you have described? Let's have to do a comparison. The ones who are still on the motherland
That's an
and then
interesting
ones
framing.
who are here. We have to be able to pinpoint a place in time and a place with the problems you discussed. If we look outside the United States, we can see blacks do not have that problem because they don't live here. Where?
That's an interesting framing of the question, because in order to have a problem, in order to consider something or classify something as a problem, that condition should not have been present before. And so Frank here is challenging that this particular condition was always present, even in Africa. So it's an interesting framing. I would say that.
I can't call his name, but I love this guy. He's like literally sticking it to everybody right now. Paid off all the debts and for his country. What is it?
Positive
Are you
vibes.
talking about Ibrahim Traore?
Traore, thank you. Yes, I love that guy because he's not taking no shorts. He's like, listen, we owe you. Here's your money. We're shut.
Now watch this, guys, because I did watch this a little bit earlier, but I wanted to watch it with you guys tonight for the show. But this right here gets pretty fascinating.
This off. Oh yeah, no, to hell with Google. And he's literally going for it. And I'm afraid the clock is on him. I think, and I don't know for sure because I haven't talked to the people there, but by and large, he reminds me a lot of Gaddafi, who people don't know historically because over here they painted Gaddafi as a terrorist. He wanted to have his own currency. He wanted to make sure that his people were well taken care of. If you wanted to go to, and again, I'm getting this secondhand from history and from people that I've talked to, Libyan Americans, who have said, yeah, if you wanted to go to school, they pay for it. If there was somebody who was sick and they did not have the technology there, they would send you to there. So yeah, that seems better. And I think Traore is taking the bull by the horns and saying this is what we're not going to tolerate.
So, so notice like a lot of the solutions, a lot of the things that he's talking about is are kind of socialist behaviors. Well, he's he's paying for the education, and he earlier he mentioned, well, everybody was kind of pooling their money with successful businesses and kind of doing more things within the community. Charity should be share from the heart. It's not something that should be forced. But I don't know. Maybe I'm speaking out of turn, but I don't know if he's forcing people to do certain things, but or prescribing that people should be forced to do things. But yeah, let's continue.
I think that is an example, two examples of where those things could easily be looked at and say, okay, yeah, that is a much better, more advantageous, more take the bull by the horn situation than I think we have here in the States.
It should be a different conversation. Otherwise, I would like to, because once I pick it on it, it will take us off the road. There is no progress, not even an inch of progress in Burkina Faso because of Ibrahim Traore.
Wow.
Totally false.
Wow.
So he's saying whatever what's happening in Burkina Faso is being made up. So hold on.
Where did an African government that has been poor since independence have the money to say, you want your debt? Here, I pay you. Where was the money lying all this time, and yet they have the debt and he didn't pay it?
I don't know. That is a very good question. Educate me.
Ask yourself this. You live in America.
Certainly.
You've never been to Burkina Faso.
Correct.
How did you come to know that Ibrahim Traore is doing all these things?
Because every time I turn on the TV, the white folks are saying what he's doing and how pissed off
Social
they are about
media.
it. Social media.
This is the biggest, second one in the history of Africa. Russian propaganda. I have a friend who lives in Ivory Coast right now as a journalist for the last 19 years. So he pendulums between Ivory Coast and Burkina Faso.
Yeah.
He knows the place.
Right.
He's a journalist.
Right.
And he's telling me, he's crying, how the whole world, in France, in Caribbean, they are marching in the streets over Burkina Faso. Nobody has been there. How did people come to know about this man?
That is crazy. It's amazing how attached we can get to a sensationalized story and not question how things happen. I mean, I don't know if Frank's right. I don't know if Dave is right in this particular conversation, but the attachment to a particular side, I think is very interesting here, because I think Frank raises some pretty good questions that before you celebrate, you should ask, right? How did they get the money to just pay off their debts? As Dave mentioned, he was happy at seeing. How did that money happen, right? How did they get the money? Another thing, why is it that we know about it all of a sudden, right? Why is it that we just all of a sudden are now hearing all these stories about, what's going on there and how revolutionary, this leader is when, when we didn't have any information from before. Well, shout out to Kung Fu CJ, says, dang, I'm late. It's not too late, brother. You still here. Guys, make sure you join, join the Shamers Club to definitely support the show. But also you can super chat. I am opening up the stream tonight to answer the question, what is Black culture and what has been your experience with Black culture? But we're also watching this Frank Zanu and Dave Anderson video. This was kind of follow up from a previous video that they did. But shout out to Chris Jones here. He says, I mean, he isn't lying. Russian propaganda was a big movement, civil rights movement, and even before then to create division within America. And Chris, you're spot on, because, I often repeat and present the communist goals that we see here. I'm gonna share. Hold on, I'm gonna actually put them up here in a second. So one of the communist goals here is to belittle all forms of American culture, discourage teaching of American history on the ground that it was only a minor part of the big picture, give more emphasis to Russian history since the communists took over. And this is, again, another one, another one of those communist goals that was written into the congressional record back in 1963 that we constantly see play out, but not just in America, right? I think, when we're looking at this, what's happening over there in Africa with Burkina Faso, it's the same thing, happening there as well. So let's go back to the video here.
Number two, which major world news have you seen interview this guy? None.
See, and then to me, and
Number three,
yeah,
think, Dave, he got in power only 24 months ago. You really know a black man in Africa. A 36-year-old military man took office in 24 months. Do you know how long it takes for you to put out a contract and have people bid for it, vet, screen, and award the contract before a factory is built? And he did all this in 24 months? It's not true.
Somebody's
the
backing
biggest
him.
Russian propaganda. You know why?
Why?
Russia is propping this guy up so that when something happens to him, Africans would blame the West
instead of blaming
themselves. Burkina Faso.
Communism has this weird way, when you really get into it, it has this weird way of absolving itself of responsibility. I mean, when you think about it, communism always fails because the West presents it from failing. And I, again, have this question: if communism is so great, why isn't it able to stand on its own? Why is it that, like, let's maybe a better example, right? Let's say, we're playing football and you have two football teams. Let's say call one of them the Baltimore Ravens, the best team ever, right? And then you got the Cleveland Browns. So shout out to CT, he's a Browns fan. And the Baltimore Ravens, right, always beat the Browns, right? The only way the Browns can win now is by saying, well, the Ravens shouldn't exist. The Baltimore Ravens should not exist as a team. That's how we can beat them. That is the same argument communists make, is that in order for communism to win or to be better, we need capitalism or these free markets or independent republics to fail. Right? The only way communism, socialism can succeed is if free markets or again, the republic countries fail. And welcome to the stage, Kung Fu CJ. What's up, brother?
What's up, Logic?
How you doing, man?
I'm all right, man. I'm busy watching The Outlaw Josie Wales, and I was like, wait a minute, what time is it?
It's that time.
So, but basically, we're talking about communism, where people, if they knew the history of Karl Marx, maybe they wouldn't accept it so much. We're talking about a man that lived off his family.
Yeah, I mean, people should, explore the history. But tonight, I want to know, man, what is Black culture? And what has been your experience with Black culture?
Basically, growing up in the inner city of DC, we want to have fun. We want to have, we want to live. We want to have fun. Some of us will go to church on Sunday, or half of us will go to church on Sunday. But after church, we still want to have fun. We want to watch the Redskins or the Commanders play or whatever. But the thing is that once our children get of age, they want to do other things. And so we're talking about them wanting to do. They don't want to hang out with the family anymore. Mm-hmm. And so they hang out with people that we as adults don't approve of, but they still hang out with them, you know. And for me, like with my son, I guess I instilled in him at an early age that certain friends are not good for you. And I remember when he just graduated high school, 19 years old. He's living in his grandfather's house and he's renting out rooms, right? And I go to visit him all the time. I'm taking him to church with me. And he's telling me they're not paying me rent. I was like, they're not paying you rent because they're your friend. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They're your friends. That's the culture.
So you saying the culture is freeloading?
Basically, think about it.
Dang,
Your
man,
friend has a whole house. You don't want to be staying with your mama no more. So you tell them, hey, you got a room that I can get into or whatever. And instead of him offering, I pay you $300 a month or $400 a month, he don't offer nothing. He just moves on in. And then you get another friend that just moves on in.
So what does that say about culture? Like if you're defining culture, right? What does that say about Black culture? What is it?
Right now, it's, if you look at it, Logic, it's us and them.
Us and who?
Us, how will I say, the professional Blacks versus the non-professional, the ones who are getting government assistance. When I was growing up, those on government assistance were striving to get out of government or get off of government assistance. But nowadays, it's like a rite of passage. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, that doesn't help our culture. It doesn't incentivize.
So if you were to have a 3-sentence definition of Black culture, what would it be?
Get a job.
They wrote it out in 3 words.
I'm just saying. Because I'm even experiencing it down here in Georgia. The young folks don't want to work. I'm like, we do car shows all the time. I put on car shows all the time. And what we do is we try to, get our children involved to help out with the car show. I need you to help with parking. I need you to help with telling vendors where they need to go to set up. They don't want to work, and we paying them. We paying them. They don't want to work. But you know what? Who will come for free? Youth Challenge.
So let me ask this though. Maybe ask a better question. If you were to imitate, if you were to imitate Black culture, what are some things that you would imitate?
If I was to imitate it, it would. I'm gonna be honest with you, Logic. It would be sports. It would be football, basketball, baseball, and soccer. And wherever you fit in between those 4 major sports is, that's it. Like I've been thinking about, I was like, if I got the money, I would build a stadium. And I would build a stadium for kids to come play their championship games, for people to come and walk around the track in safety. Because it will be kind of enclosed and stuff like that. But that's the only thing I see. Entertainment wise, look, I'm on the fence on entertainment because I have 2 children that are in the entertainment business. Mm-hmm. I have a daughter who speaks spoken word. She raps. She's a Christian artist. And then my son is a music producer, but
Did
he
you hear
still
my
got
song
a
earlier? You got to go back and listen to my song earlier, man. I played one of my old songs too earlier.
really okay.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, you know, to imitate this culture right now, it would be encouraging all the children, you know, to play sports, because even if they don't make it, they learn how to work with other people. They learn how to work with different races, you know, and with that discipline, they can go out and get a job.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
can they'll be able to work. I
All right.
mean,
So you want to hang on because I want to go ahead and I
yeah,
want to go back to some of the video because I thought I just found this conversation fascinating between Dave Anderson and Frank Zanu, and
okay.
it's of course they're having a conversation. The title of the video is what African Americans don't know, and definitely check out Frank
Mm,
Zanu's channel if you haven't. And he has these kind of conversations with everyone. He runs into. And if you missed it, he was on the Daily Wrap Up, I think it was. But him and the
okay.
Business Bully, they had a panel discussion in which they got kind of interesting. So I definitely recommend checking that out. But also while you're here, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and share this stream. Also, you can join the Shamers Club. And the way we do the videos here, this is this is our live stream. This is where we want people to interact, chat, and everything like that. But these streams become members only. We actually release a condensed version, a podcast version, on Wednesdays. So that's the part that's on podcast, and you can find the podcast on Google Music for the most part. We haven't
Oh,
had it
that's good.
syndicated for on the other platforms, but Google Music, you can definitely get the podcast, and we'll have various clips coming out throughout the week. But to get access to the to past live streams and everything, you have to be a member, and we have some crazy discussions. We have some crazy things happening on the show.
That's
You
right.
definitely go check them out. But let's get back a little bit more into this conversation.
It's a basket of coup d'etat from the day of independence.
So he's installed.
No, they make coups against themselves.
Huh.
He overthrew the guy, Henry, who was only 9 months in power. He overthrew him. How do you judge a man in power for 9 months?
You can't.
You
There's not
can't.
enough time.
And he's going around wearing a French beret, a French hand gloves, a French pistol, a French armored car, a French jeep, a French military, everything French, and go to Russia to say, yes, I kick one of you out of Europe, kick you out, and I want to deal with another European country. Let's not go that. Okay, here is a...
And then, this is interesting on another level too. Because when we talk about, especially in urban environments, particularly another element that of perceived Black culture is the crabs in a barrel mentality, right? And what Frank Zanu just explained was someone gave me a higher dollar to do some propaganda, and I betrayed my community for that dollar. Right. And this is what we see in Maryland. So again, the point Frank Zanu was making from the beginning was that there's no difference between Blacks in America and Blacks in or Africans in Africa. He's making a couple of arguments, but we can see this play out time and time again. I mean, in Baltimore, in Maryland, you see this play. We have a Black mayor in Baltimore City, have a Black governor, but where does the money go? Right? It's like these things, we get sold down the river time and time again. I mean, the school system, all this money going towards schools. I mean, Baltimore City was one of the highest funded school systems per pupil in the country, of large school districts. But when it comes
Yeah.
down to education, where does the money go? Where does the money go? It's to me, it's again, Blacks again selling themselves out. And if this is the culture, I mean, I'm at the point, do we just accept it for what it is? Or is there something of it that we try to change? And, from my perspective, do I do I just accept that as culture, or if I adopt American culture, what is I mean, how should I be viewed? I mean, I don't care, but it's like, if that's my choice to make, it's just I get to make that choice. Come for you got something to say to that, man?
Listen, I remember when my son was a kid, and when he was real young, and I went out and bought Hooked on Phonics. It had cassette tapes, and it had little books in it for him to read. I was in the military at the time, so the only thing I could do was drop it off, open it up, and show my then wife, what she could do for my son, which is play the audio tapes when he goes to sleep at night. She never did that. And I come back, I'm out of the military. My son's 7 years old and he can't read anything. He can't spell or anything. And I'm like, where's the Hooked on Phonics at? And she brings me the box. I was like, you haven't touched it since I touched it. And so in this, I look at the school system the same way. They took out what works, like phonics, basic mathematics, addition, subtraction, division, multiplication. They took that stuff out and then made it complicated.
Yep.
And so you being a parent, you get the homework and you're like, why is it set up this way? Why can't, the answer is X, Y, and Z, and you telling your child, this looks weird, but this is the way we did it back then. And he brings it to school and the teacher's like, that's not how I want it done. But I got the right answer.
Yep. Man, I got so much to say about the school system, man, because remember, I sued the schools, man. I need to do more content on that experience. I need to get some more out there. All right, so let's continue with something, because I want to get through about 10 more minutes of this.
Problem I'm trying to share with you.
Sure.
My aim for this conversation, Dave, please be with me, is
Absolutely.
that we got to find a way to examine the problem.
Certainly.
And it will change our activism. It will change the way we are tackling this problem.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to go on what I said. How do you know there is a problem? Right. You got to look at the person and see when the person didn't have this condition. Was there a time in our life on Mother Earth, the last 400 years, where what you see about black people was never the case? Let me read some things to you.
Sure.
Here are the following I put down. On the continent, 54 countries.
Yes.
African Americans, 50 million.
Yeah.
These, and then of course the Caribbean.
Sure.
These are the common things you will see every time you interact with these two groups.
Okay.
One, black on black crime. Oh, we beat you to it. Only that we don't have a media that reports it. As I'm speaking to you right now, in the streets of Lagos, in the streets of Ghana, in the streets of Liberia, we cannot resolve conflict. You do well here more than we do.
When I started the conversation, we played the national anthem, and again, I am grateful for being in this country. And what Frank just mentioned, he said, you guys resolve conflict here much better. And I don't know if we if we realize how important of a character trait that is, right? Because otherwise you're dead. Otherwise, if we can't resolve conflict, you're dead.
But think about this, Logic. Think about this. I learned from a former Maryland resident that there are 3 tiers of education in the state of Maryland. Those who go to school in Montgomery County and upper Baltimore County, like Hartford County and stuff like that, they are the elite. Those are your leaders, your business creators, and so forth and so on. Then you have your other schools within those counties. Those are your supervisors. They're, and foremen. And then the rest are your worker bees. When it comes down to conflict resolution, it is taught in the upper class of your elite counties, which was in Maryland. I haven't dissected Georgia yet. And in those counties, they learn conflict resolution. It is not taught in the other two classes. And the reason why is because they don't care.
I mean, you're right. But the thing is, it wasn't always like that. I mean, you
I
have
know.
people that talk about the education system. Early Baltimore City education system in particular, and how world class it was. I mean, people would, come from all over to be part of the Baltimore City public school system. As a matter of fact, there is still a tuition system for Baltimore City public schools for people that reside outside of the city that want to
Right.
send their kids inside the city. Because I mean, granted, there are a couple of still really top-notch schools in Baltimore City, but that used to be more widespread, more pronounced in the sense of we want to send our kids to Baltimore City public schools because they produce top talent, and
There you
that's
go.
just no longer the case, for various reasons. But let's continue with this conversation.
The only thing is, you guys have a gun. That's it. We use knives and bottles
He's
and
talking
sticks
about
on each other.
the black on black crime.
Black
Right.
on black crime? No, we beat you to it. 2, corruption. It's between all of us. Mayors from Illinois, super mayor, and you name them, Bally Williams and everybody. We have 10 times that in Africa. Blight. You trash your neighborhood. We are the champion of it in Africa. The first thing you notice about every African city, as soon as you get out of the airport, is blight. Trash in the streets of every city.
Wow.
It's like, look, man, I'm black, and I don't like, there's that kind of thing, like, man, why are you talking so bad about blacks, or why are you talking about so bad about African? Like, it's frustrating. It is frustrating because, all right, so I recently did move out of Baltimore City. All right, I lived in Baltimore. I lived in West Baltimore. I lived for a year on Penn North. If you know anything about Penn North, that's where the Freddie Gray riots and all the things were happening. So there's one of those iconic photos with a man, a boy, standing on top of a police car that was burnt out. That was that was in front of the house where I used to live.
Wow.
That was like,
Wow.
so like there, this is, so I lived in the city, but it's one of those things where trash in the street, like it costs nothing to pick up trash. So when we're talking about blight and trash in our neighborhood, whose responsibility is it to not throw the trash on the street? Because it ain't white people just coming through trash in the neighborhoods. You know what I mean? It's not a whole bunch of, these are all white people from Baltimore County or some of these other nice areas. They're just coming through Penn North and throwing trash out the window, making it dirty here.
Logic.
That is not the case.
Logic. It all starts in the home, brother. I taught my 2 kids, if you can find a trash can, find a trash can. Even me, I'm walking, I see like trash. This ain't my business, but I pick it up and find a trash can to put it in the trash. It all comes from there. And if it's not taught, if it's not shown, remember, our children will emulate us. There are video cameras. Basically, everything we do is being recorded by them when we do it in front of them. And if they don't see it, then they figure, Well, the city got trash men. They can pick it up and throw their wrappers on the ground, their McDonald's fry in the bag, throw it, on the ground, stuff like that. It
Yep.
starts at home, and this is everything starts at the house.
Yep.
If you're
Yep.
not teaching your children respect for elders, they're gonna go out and hit an old person over the head to take their purse or their wallet.
Yeah.
If you're not teaching your children to basically be proud of their neighborhood.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
this is our neighborhood, so keep it clean.
Yeah.
They gonna litter, and then if you don't teach them that life is precious, that life is valuable, then we're gonna have black on black crime all the time.
So yeah, don't forget though, one of the catchphrases of Just the Guys is "Only monkeys litter." So
That's right.
maybe that'll help reduce the amount of litter in the streets. But I do want to say this, right? One question I have, and this is just rhetorical. Maybe you guys can answer this in the chat though. But what kind of worldview creates? What kind of worldview suggests that it's okay to trash your neighborhood, right? And if I'd like Frank Zanu's definition or prescription of culture, that a culture creates a worldview. And when you think about that in that context, what worldview allows for destruction of your own communities? And I'll share a quick story real quick. Again, like I said, I just moved out of the city about 6 months ago. We moved into a county west of Maryland. It's a rural county, got trees and cows and horses. You'll see.
I got you. I know. Basically, once you mentioned that, I knew where you lived at.
Yeah. So, but I would threaten my kids, and I say, "No, we about to move back to the city. We about to move back to the city." Now, mind you, where we were living was very nice. Like I liked the neighborhood in the city. The neighbors are good, very very good neighborhood. It's close to a park and all this stuff. Yeah, it was a decent neighborhood for the city. But I would threaten them and say, "Hey, we about to move back to the city." My daughter would be like, "No, no, no." I was like, "You don't want to move back to the city? It was nice." She was like, "No, no, no. I like it here." And when I asked her why she liked it, it was like she said because it's clean. She said because people are the people are nicer. People don't throw trash on the streets, right? And again, when it comes to this worldview, what culture does it create? Like, what culture is being prescribed when we see trash on these streets, right? Again, white people aren't coming through Baltimore City into the areas where you see high concentrations of black folks and throwing their trash out, right? Now,
That's
some
right.
would argue where contractors or Hispanics are just dropping. No, I'm talking about litter. I'm talking about just normal everyday stuff. I'm talking about sweeping your front steps. And that really isn't happening. That is no longer the culture of the black community. So let's continue.
Baby mamas and baby daddies,
Huh.
like I said on your show, the reason ours is not known is because of the family structure. When you have the baby, your grandmother takes it, nobody knows, and you just mix back to the crowd.
Right.
But if you go to Kenya right now, you would cry for how many 19, 20, 21, 23-year-olds walking around with babies whose fathers are just walking around, don't care. You're talking about lack of mental.
Man, that's it's got to be a cultural thing, man. Like, it's just like the way I was raised. Like, I could not have a kid and not be involved.
Right.
Like I just have to be a father. Like, that's, if I have a kid, like this, I just gotta I gotta be there for the kid.
Logic. Let me tell you something. When I finally got out of the military, I divorced my son's mom, and I had gotten a relationship with a really good friend who I worked with at Domino's Pizza, and we had been friends for a long time. And the moment that we got married, all of a sudden I can't go get my son anymore. I can't visit my son. I can't go get him and bring him to the house so he can be around his cousins. You know what I'm saying? And it hurt me. However, once we went to court, everything changed. But I remember I dropped him off and I gave him a check. It was for child support. I gave him a check to give to his mama. We talking way back then, okay? We talking, remember I'm old guys, so we talking about 99, 98. I give him a check to take to his mama, and he comes back with the check. And he gives it to my then wife and says, Mama says she don't need your money. And yeah, 2 weeks later, I'm at the child support office because now she wanna file for child support.
Yeah, she can't have that record on that check being given.
Wow. And so here's like you said, yes, I got a baby. I want to be a father to my baby. That's my seed. You know, I want him to succeed. I want him not to go through the things that I went through. I was a regular knucklehead. I was menace to society. I'm not supposed to be where I'm at right now. Right. I was that kid, you know. My friends say they're hungry. We go past the grocery store and I come out with all kinds of food. That type of guy, you know. And we 4 miles away from home or 3 miles away from home and we walking.
Yeah.
And so, you know, the women think they can raise men, but they're not.
Yeah, that's impossible.
Because of the emotional part of their makeup, you cannot raise a man. He has to be around men. He has to see the struggles of a man. He has to see that man get up and go to work every day, even if he don't want to, even if he don't like it, but he has to see it so he can emulate it.
Yeah. It's interesting too, man. I got a son. My son is 7. And first, I recommend everyone read a book called Wild at Heart by John Eldredge. If you haven't read that book, men, women, husbands, wives need to listen to that book. Again, it's called Wild at Heart by John Eldredge. But, you know, my son and I have been having little talks and you know, first all day long, all he wants to do is fight me. So he's like punching, he's throwing haymakers. I've taught him how to, I've taught him, you know, he boxes, but man, like them little punches starting to hurt now. I'm like, man,
I know.
got to leave, you know. But at night, we say our prayers and do our affirmations, and I try to pray with him pretty much every night. We also have conversations, and the other night he asked me, in the most sincere way. Again, he's 7 years old. In the most sincere way, he looked at me. Oh, he wasn't looking at me. He looked at his hands. He was looking at his hands, and he said, "I know my name is Giovanni Milo Patterson, but who am I?" 7 years old.
Wow.
7 years old. He asked the question. I know my name, but who am I? Who am I? And I understood immediately what he was asking. Right.
That's right.
But he proceeded to continue to explain himself. He's like, "Am I the main character or something?" He's like, "Am I the main character?" He's like, "I can see out of my eyes, but I can't see out of yours." And he's like, I was like, "Man, son, all right." So now the journey is beginning.
Wow.
And it's like, I was like, man, this little man gets it. And he's just starting. He's even asking questions about what is my mind and what are my thoughts. Like so we're starting to have these discussions, and it's just I'm looking at it like, man, proud dad moment, and
Mhm.
but it's like I don't know what got him there. The only thing I know is I spend time with him. You know, he tries to hit me in my stomach every now and then, and I don't know if I'm getting it right.
I got
You
I
know what I'm
got
saying? It's just the to me the culture is just I'm just there, right? That's
Mhm.
it. I want to again. I want to go back to a few more minutes of this video, and then we're gonna get out of here.
Okay.
Tenants, the same thing. Ghettos, plenty. Do you know a place called Kibera in Kenya?
Yes.
Soweto?
Yes.
Those are the biggest slums all over every city in Africa. We have our ghettos. Financial illiteracy? Oh, we two of us, we are in Olympics for it, okay? Health disparities? Yes. We eat bad. Our women are walking around out of shape, unhealthy. Diabetes is across the continent of Africa. And
No, before we get too far, like, what is the image though we generally hold of Africa?
That's and that's true because we're not in Africa.
Right.
He is what he's doing right now is basically showing us a picture of what Africa is because we can't see. We just hear what we hear on the news. He's showing us with his words what Africa is actually all about. That the same thing that's going on in the United States
Yep.
with the black community is 3 times as worse in African cities and African countries. That's what he's doing. And he's explaining to us, like when he was talking about the uh, the pregnancy rate among single women. Think about that. That's gone down a lot
Yep.
here amongst the African American community here in the United States. But he's saying it's like consistent. It's consistent, the same percentage year in and year out as far as women having babies out of wedlock, and the
So,
fathers are nowhere to be found.
let me ask this: why is it so hard, particularly for, and I'm going to call it black culture? Why is it so hard for black culture to accept reality, right? And what I mean by this is that there are bad things that are happening in Africa in mass, right? There's just a lot of things that are counter to the motherland is beautiful. Africa is, yes, there's some safaris, there's some beautiful buildings that have been built. There's some things that are there in Africa. However, when you talk about the overall state of the country, why is it so hard to be objective about that when it comes to Africa? Why, and that goes back to the black community. Why is it so hard to be objective when it comes about to the status of the black community? When we talk about 77% out of wedlock birth rate, why is it so hard to be objective about that instead of saying, well, actually, black dads are the most involved dads or of the of any group, but the results are, or the proof is, like, look, 77% are still born outside of wedlock. It's not just
Right.
about involved dads. There has to be some structure in the home that's shown on a consistent basis, and that's not what we see in the black
Right.
community. So again, why is it so hard for black culture in the community to have to be objective about some things? And that's just my question. I'm just curious. And but let's continue.
Hold on real quick
Yeah,
before
yeah,
you push play. Grandma is not there anymore. Remember old grandma?
yeah.
That's
Praying grandma.
that is the problem. The praying grandmother is no longer there.
Yeah,
And so you got now what you have now is the grandma that going to go party with the daughter or daughters, on the weekend, and they leave the kids with the father but the father of the kid they don't have a male role model. And so that vicious cycle continues.
You're right. You're right. All right, let's continue. Only a few more minutes.
Sickle cell. Nepotism, the same thing. Unproductive relationship with money. Oh, we are top of it. You talk about bling. Have you seen Davido? Have you seen Burna Boy? Have you seen every kid in the streets of Accra wants to buy something more expensive than he can afford? We have the same thing in common. You blame white supremacy and racism for the reason blacks' social economic is low. We blame imperialism and neo-colonization. We just gave it two
Same
different
system,
names.
different
Same
names.
different names, okay?
Oh, I'm with you.
Okay. And you change names, we change names, okay? You were once upon a time colored people, Negro, Afro-American, Black American, African-American, and now foundational Black American. Once upon a time, it was Upper Volta, it's now Burkina Faso. Nothing has happened. There is no new injury inflicted upon the black man on earth.
That right there is a bar, as the young kids say.
That's right.
There's no new injury inflicted upon the black man on earth.
And think about it. Think about it. I used to do lectures and seminars when I was up north all the time. And when there were younger people in the audience, I would tell them that when you get money, be wise. And if you can't be wise, go to someone in your family or someone very close to you that is wise to help you with your finances. Perfect example. When I was in the military and I was getting ready to go off on my next cruise, my last cruise in the Mediterranean, my brother called me and he said, I think I hit the lottery. And I'm like, you hit the lottery? Mind you, my job in the Navy was, I was a bookkeeper. I handled the money. And I tell him, oh, we can make that grow. He says, I can't turn the ticket in because he's on in-house arrest. So he gives it to his mom who turns the ticket in. I come home from work. My wife then, Valerie, is like, look at your family on TV. $9.5 million. Maryland Lotto. They don't have the Maryland Lotto no more.
They don't? I don't play lottery, but they do.
Yeah. They won $9.5 million. They cut them a check for $308,000. And so every November they would get $308,000.
Wow.
And so I call my stepmother and I tell her, basically I share my resume, basically. They did, only my brother would come to me, with advice. He was like, man, there's a club in Florida. I can buy it right now, blah, blah, blah. This is already up and running. And I would give him advice on it, However, I'm going to fast forward it. Out of that $9.5 million from 1996, they don't have any of it.
Wow. Education is key, man. Education
Financial literacy is key. I have a friend that's there in Maryland, right? And she was trying to get a bill passed that would put financial literacy as a course in all high schools in the state of Maryland. And they shot it down.
Man, that's that's across cultures. That's not even just black culture. I mean, that's across culture. Terrence, welcome to the Just the Guys podcast. Man, what is black culture and what has been your experience with black culture?
Black culture is drugs and self-destruction right now. Um, if you look at reality, um, 90%, we have you said 75% single moms, and marriages last, if you do get a black marriage, it'll last 5 years. So the single mom divorce rate is somewhere around 75% and 90%, which means that there's no more black households, no more black families, no more black marriages, no more black relationships. And what destroyed it? We have the nuclear bomb of crack cocaine of the 80s that blacks never recovered from. We have feminism that's got our women not wanting a black man anymore, with the Moynihan Report of 1965, where black females left the black house for welfare. And so the culture is what? Drugs and alcohol and self-destructive, self-hating rap music, where they're rapping about celebrating drugs and deleting their own brother and just having sex with no marriage. So we don't even have a true culture anymore.
Wow.
And the brother said, we don't have the grandma. That's the problem. No, that's not the problem. The problem is we don't have grandpa, because the man is the builder of the society, while the female is the builder of the children. And the black man has been completely destroyed. You know, when Farrakhan would mention the destruction of the black man in America, I thought he was exaggerating, but no, it's a fact.
So let me ask you this, Terrence. Why has it worked?
Why has what worked?
Why has the black community allowed itself to be destroyed in this manner?
With slavery, for slavery to be successful, slavery's been successful for 500 or 600 years. What makes it successful is the ability to sell black people on self-hatred. When you hate yourself, you can't. When you hate yourself, there's no way you can do for yourself, build for yourself, think for yourself. It's like the homeless bum on the street. Why? And the drug addict homeless bum on the street. Why come he doesn't have a mansion? Because he can't even get a shed. He can't even go to Home Depot and buy a $500 shed for himself. Why? Because he's steeped in self-hatred. Black females' favorite saying and national anthem is, "I don't need no man. I'm a strong, independent woman. I don't need no man. A nigga can't do SHIT for me." They got all these sayings. 60% of them are gay. And it's self-hatred.
So let me ask, Terrence, because you're bringing up an interesting, I would say, progression, right?
Yes, sir.
Because this is why I get called logic, right? Because this is my logic happening. It seems to me that the black community has continued to adopt this African or black culture in the sense of that, what you just talked about, self-hatred, right? Because if we allowed ourselves or we were sold into slavery by other Africans, right? And we continue to see what Frank Zanu is making the point here, is that there's no difference between blacks in America and the status of blacks in black Africans now. It seems this same through line has been happening despite slavery and all these other things. And to me, it seems rejection of the general way of black and adoption of American culture is what, dare I say, saves those that may have melanated skin. Instead, if adoption of black culture is adoption of African culture, and the African culture is the same, and that culture has been rooted in, as you stated, self-hatred, dependence, drugs, alcohol, and all these things. Are you suggesting that, or maybe I'm missing something? Maybe help me out, Terrence.
I have an extremely unique perspective. I've lived in 6 or 7 African countries.
Oh,
And
man.
people ask me this. I've been asked this 1,000 times before. And my answer is this. And it's from God, because I'm not smart enough to come up with it. The exact same racism and terrorism that we face over here from the American white man is the exact same oppression, racism, and terrorism the African faces from the European white man. So those colonizers that were kicked out of England and started America, they do the damage to, they practice racism, terrorism over here, and their European brothers practice it in Africa. But it's the same thing.
But where does the self-hatred come from?
The self-hatred comes from the use of language. We're called Negro. Negro's on my birth certificate. When a Negro comes from the Latin word negare, meaning something dead. Necra, from the Latin necra. So we're considered a dead people. Like the book of Isaiah, 42nd chapter, calls us blind, deaf, and dumb. And another scripture calls us dry bones in the valley. Well, what are dry bones? Dry bones are on dead people. And
so you're saying the Bible is calling black people dead?
Yes.
Black
and so
Americans or blacks globally?
They're one and the same. So
why is it that is that prescribed to just blacks in general, or is it? Because now I'm kind of getting confused.
No,
because I don't feel like I'm dead. Am I dead?
Okay. All right. Well, let me explain it. We're we're dead. There's a cross reference in the Bible. It says there's a lion asleep in Judah who will awaken him. When I say dead, I mean mentally, spiritually, psychologically, and culturally. And black culture is a culture of death, crack, drugs, single moms, single parent household. All that is death. Materialism, rap music, gun violence.
Now, is that black culture though defined by black people, or is it defined by, you're saying, the European whites? How was this death culture defined?
It was initiated. It's promoted by America, white America, to keep us down. And the problem is not their promotion. The problem is our acceptance of it. 90% of black females are fat. 90% single mom divorce rate. 80% of black females start the divorce procedure. Black females spend $30 billion a year on fake hair. There's no, where's 60% of them are practicing homosexuality. Where's the wife? There's no wife material in that. Where's the wife material in that? 71% of black females have a have a fornication baby by the time they hit 21 from fornication. Show me the wife material in that. Those things did not exist prior to 1970. 1970, we had late 60s, we had a 85% marriage rate. We had
That's right.
communities. We used to have these things called parents that don't exist anymore. We used to have fathers, communities.
So why does it work? Like why has the acceptance of this worked? Like it's one thing to have someone
Why does what work?
prescribe something on you. It's another
Uh-huh.
thing to accept it.
Right. You answered your own question. It works because blacks accepted this. We accept self-hatred instead of what? What's the opposite of self-hatred? Self-love. It's use your kindergarten degree to solve it.
Now I appreciate you coming on, Terrence. Let me get to Afro Nerd. Afro Nerd has joined the show. So Afro Nerd, what's up? So let me ask, man, what is Black culture, and what has been your experience with Black culture?
Okay. Hey, what's up, Kung Fu? you might not like my answer, Kung Fu. I think we go back and forth on another platform. So, we have to be very distinct about what Black culture is, Black American culture versus African culture. I've used this term on many occasions, and it seems to rattle people. But Black culture, looking at it from an African perspective, like I'm as you can clearly see on ADOS, FBA, Black American, Southern-based roots, that whole thing. But for some Black immigrants, not all, because we have to be very careful with our words and we have to start using qualifiers and quantifiers when we speak. Something I see often on Black YouTube, or not even just Black YouTube, it's like all this, Black that, white this. We don't make any kind of qualifications with who we're talking about. Black American culture is distinct from African culture in the sense that it is a creolized culture. Doesn't mean that, and when I use the term creolized, it means that, well, you're not from France, so you're not a French Creole, you're not a Haitian Creole, but America in the aggregate is creolized, right? So we eat hot dogs, sauerkraut, French fries, pizza. All these things are quintessential American cuisine, but then they're really not. They're creolized. So African Americans are a sub-nation under a nation of Creoles. We are creolized. We are European mulattoes, or cultural mulattoes. You have actual mulattoes within the African American experience, and you also have, but all of us are actually cultural mulattoes in the sense that we have African features, but we speak English, or a derivative of English, or a patois, like Haitians speak French patois, right? Or even our French Creole brothers speak a French patois, but we speak an American, a British patois. So we got to be very careful, have some scholarship with when we speak about certain things. When you're talking about Black people, you have to start getting into tiers, levels of who is who, whether it's by geography in our country, whether it's by educational level, what have you. Not all Black people. We hear all over the place. Black people are not a monolith, but this is really true. This is a really true thing. So Black culture, to me, because I'm obsessed with Black culture, but I like to look at all facets of Black culture. I attended a HBCU for my undergraduate degree. I went to Hampton University.
So if you could put in a sentence, like,
Sure,
because one
I'm sorry to
one sign of intelligence is being able to simplify. If you were to describe Black culture succinctly, what would it be?
Black culture is the experience in its totality in the Americas, and our ability to create something from nothing. Call and response from gospel. Jazz music is probably the most sophisticated music ever created. It is America's classical music. If there was, I have a lot to say on this, but I know time is precious. But if there was ever a linchpin for high intellect, when Blacks were positioned to be, or told that they were lesser than, or ignorant, or 3/5, the creation of the complexity of jazz music, which is created from Storyville, Louisiana, and it's played before kings and queens, right? And taught in Ivy League schools. That's a black music. It's black culture. It's sophisticated. Not everyone can play jazz music. And I can give multiple examples of what is black culture. It's not just singling on the dysfunction. Singling on the dysfunction is the trick bag, because whites, the Appalachians, 30 million Appalachians are highly dysfunctional. But white people are very coy in not letting you see white poverty. I land a plane. I can go on. I can talk about this. I know what I'm talking about. But let's go.
I mean, I don't know if I fully agree.
You can look it up, sir. Everything I'm saying is you can look it up. It's not what I believe, is what I've read. It's
so
scholarship.
Let me ask. So let's say and walk with me here. Like if black culture prescribes a worldview, what is it the worldview that the culture prescribes? What is it that the worldview that this black culture stands for? Now you're mentioning jazz and stuff. And one thing before I let you respond, one thing particularly, I'm black. I'm a musician as well. So one thing about anything blacks do, right? You know, you think about sports, you think about music, you think about what happens is we can do something special, right? I'm a drummer, you know, you used to do gospel chops, or these drummers, you know, all the kids from Berkeley that would just go 1 year, and because they can't afford the next year, you know, they would go that 1 year and do all the gospel chops and then leave school and go perform nationwide. Now, those kids oftentimes couldn't read music. And what happens, what I've seen with things with black culture and what we get mad about is that we can do these things, but then white people can come back and then figure out what you did and then imitate it, replicate it, and then master it and get better. So all these gospel chops that people come out, because the black kids could not read music, you got white bands out there now doing shout music. And there's a big band shout music song out there. I think it's by the 8-bit band or something like that. Mm-hmm. And they're playing it, but they've mastered it because now they're able to not just hold this within and just, oh man, look at me, I'm talented, but they're not able to communicate this and share and disseminate that information with others. Christian McCaffrey, running back for the 49ers. Why is this white boy running? Like, I thought being a running back was a black thing. I played running back in high school. I played running back in college. And it's like, yo, it's supposed to be, because this is our thing. This is what we good at. And you got this white boy, Christian McCaffrey, because they studied the tweets, studied this, and now I can replicate it. So,
Logic, real quick. McCaffrey's mom is mixed. But you can go ahead.
But come on. I mean, but it's still, we can't. We're not going to play that, are we? I just said I used the term creolized for a reason. If your last name is a European last name, that answers the question, doesn't it? Your last name isn't like our friend on another channel who doesn't tell us what his last name is because he knows it's Nigerian. If you don't have that Nigerian or Ugandan surname, it already speaks. The question is, I'm a brown-skinned black man, but when I did a DNA testing, some Euro and some other stuff came up there. I mean, that's what it is. That's what it means to be African in America. We went through something distinctly different than someone who was direct from the continent and coming in post 1960.
Okay, so but what does that do to you then? Like what is that? Why is it that you can't say have appreciation? And I'm not saying you, but I'm just saying, like, what is it about black culture or the way black culture is perceived now that we can't have an appreciation for where we are now and move forward? Why is it that we always go back to this kind of we were oppressed and how things were, and let that define culture instead of saying we're in America right now. We can make the best of it, like other blacks that we see, you know, the Obamas, the, you know, Oprah Winfrey's, that then they're just prescribing the same victim culture back down. Why isn't that we can say we can adopt here, make the best of it, build family legacy here and stop allowing others to destroy it. What is it about our culture that doesn't allow that?
Well, two things. One, I want to answer your question about worldview, because Zanu referenced worldview, and he kept on moving that goalpost to exactly what he meant by worldview, right? Because, see, you have to be very specific about who he is and who we are. Zanu is Beninese, right? Benin has which was formerly the Republic of Dahomey. Dahomey, by the way, they were noted slave traders, but I'll leave that as it be. All of us saw Woman King, the Dora Milaje is a comic book fan. All that is, we know what's going on. But worldview from an American Black perspective has been replicated over and over again, and we don't know what it is. Our worldview really is resistance and liberation.
Now you sound like a communist.
No, you're not letting me complete what I'm saying. That's not communism. Communism is not about liberating yourself from slavery and or second or third class citizenship. That's a distinctly different thing than communism or socialism. What I'm saying is we have to be very clear about what it means to be a Black person in this country. You were enslaved for hundreds of years. Then you were given manumission. You were 13, 14, 15 amendments. We know that. But then there's a transition period from having been a slave to being a sharecropper, right? So you're kind of you're a low budget factory worker in a sense. You're working on the plantation from the person who used to own you. But you do move from that perspective to wanting more things, wanting more autonomy. So you do have someone like Thurgood Marshall, a noted Howard graduate, went to a Black school, but was able to deconstruct the American Constitution to allow us to have mobility. He was able to use, not from a Harvard school, but from a HBCU, he's able to revigor or stand tall for what the Constitution means. Black man, right? Whether it was A. Philip Randolph and the sleeping car porters, whether it was Reverend Adam Clayton Powell Jr., one of my heroes, or Dr. King, or any of all these other people, or even going into the Black Panthers, that showed you and the world, and actually we garnered a great deal of respect from Africans when they saw that we were able to upend the segregation that once the apartheid in our country, and we're able to become world-renowned Black people. When Black Americans dysfunction and elevation together are the most noted Black people in the world. When they think about Blackness, and this is why people are rattled, they don't think about Black Brits, they don't think about Ugandans, they don't think about Nigerians. They think about the Black American. So that's coming from our experience. And I'm not the one here to belittle it. I think this whole notion of going into the past is foolhardy, that we can't go back into the past, because anytime, and it's just the natural things. If you go to the doctor, he's going to pull up your medical history. When I'm dealing with my finances now, using AI to improve some of my financial stuff, let's look at your financial history. Only Black people are positioned to think this way. You're not going to tell a person of the Jewish faith not to go into his history. Let me make it very plain to you, and I want you to understand this. I want you to answer me on this. I'm landing the plane. I think it's very interesting that when you have the Blacksonian, the Black History Museum in D.C., that a white president, I'm going to have to emphasize his color, he comes in and feels very comfortable in moving things around and say, hey, I don't like all this slavery stuff. I don't like all this, this America is bad. I don't like this bad history. So I want to molest your history. He would not do that. You know what I mean by molest. He's trying to, it's true. You shake your head, but this is what he's doing. But you're not going to see that at the Holocaust Museum. He's not going to be so free to just say, I don't believe this. Meanwhile, in the same breath, he wants to erect the Confederate statues that were knocked down and he was to rename. He was to go back to the original names of the military bases of Confederate brigadier generals.
Why do you want to erase history though?
That's right.
Shouldn't that be there? But
no, I can tell you why.
Let me ask. Do you know John Morant?
I heard the name. Yeah.
Do you know why he was important in history?
Clue me in.
So John Morant was born in the 1700s. He was born in New York and moved to Georgia. This is before slavery ended, mind you. He was a young black boy. He moved to Georgia with his mom. His mom paid for him to go to school. He was being educated, an educated black boy in the slavery South. You wouldn't hear that about black history because, again, blacks were all slaves. There was no free blacks in America.
Well, that's not false. We know that's false. 12 years of slave proved that.
Okay, so there again, but the prevailing narrative is that blacks were all slaves in this country. There weren't free blacks. Blacks didn't get an education. We were subject to the hand of the white man. If you subscribe to the idea of 1619, if you subscribe to any of the pro-black narrative, John Morant was a young boy who was trained to be a musician, and at a young age, he began playing around town for money. He was a black musician, and maybe this is where jazz came from. I don't know, but this young man later converted to Christianity, and he was the first known black boy to evangelize to Indians.
Mm-hmm.
He was the one that introduced Christianity to Indians down in the South. Now, his family disowned him. You know, when he became a Christian, his family pushed him away. His family, no, you need to go play that instrument, boy. But no, he went into the wilderness at 13 years old. Now, they made 13 different back then than they do now. I mean, 13-year-olds now can barely tie their shoes. But this young boy was playing around town. He was a sought after musician, later converted to Christianity, and then went and ministered and wrote to tell about it. He wrote a book. I have it on my nightstand. I forgot the name of it, but I sent it to you.
I read the book too.
But we don't hear that about black history.
And that's not in the museum either.
We don't hear that in the museum, Afro Nerd. We don't hear any of that. And that is part of the narrative, I think, with black culture adopting this victim mentality, because this young black boy who wrote about it in the before slavery ended, he was a victor. He was an overcomer.
Well, can I respond to that?
Sure.
I hear what you're saying. I'm not disputing what you're saying, and it's to be noted, right? But I'm very well aware, and I wish more African Americans and others, not just black people, actually, because the adage is Black American history is American history, which is very true. But whether it was the most noted graduate from my school, right, Booker T. Washington, up from slavery,
that's right.
Or whether it was Solomon Northrop, who was a gentleman that was a musician within his own right, who lived in upstate New York and was recaptured, which was a thing also. You could be a free person of color because you have free person of color communities in the North. Northern slavery ended earlier, about 30 decades earlier than
there was never slavery in the North.
No, there were slaves here. I live in New York. There was slaves.
It was.
There was even a slavery exhibit.
It was in the North. However, the governors of those states petitioned the king to end slavery, and the king said no. And so when the Declaration of Independence came about, they looked to the other founders and says, we can free our slaves now, right? It's like, yeah. The
But
thing
we
is,
have to be. We can't rewrite history. There was Northern slavery. It just ended before Southern slavery. So let's be clear about that.
I got you. I got you. However, blacks own slaves in the South also.
That's true. But you got to be also honest about that. That was well, half of that was because they're trying to get their family. They were related in instances. No, and there were those who were opportunists, but it was not to the degree of racialized slavery. Slavery became racialized after the Bacon's Rebellion, right? When the corporatists of that time period saw that white indentured servants, Native Americans, and African Americans were commingling, and they were fearful of these lower groups actually fighting against the owners or the corporatists. And that's therefore you had Bacon's Rebellion, and what came out from Bacon's Rebellion was the slave codes. That's when race became a thing. And we weren't even really called black and white in that way. But at some point, they had to make slavery a racial thing. And that's what makes slavery distinct from when people say, well, slavery was all over the world. Slavery was all over the world, but it wasn't an LLC. It wasn't a it wasn't insurance. You weren't insured. You weren't underwriting Ivy League institutions. Slavery was a totally different bag. The royal I forgot the name of it. What I'm saying is they had several company names for slavery.
So, but let me ask you this, Afro Nerd. Maybe you can.
I'm just giving y'all facts. You can look any of this up.
But let me ask you this, because this still seems victim based. It's like, well, it's like
it's a math equation. Logic. Your name is logic, right?
Let me finish.
It's a math equation.
Let me finish.
Sure.
Because it's like my slavery was worse than yours. Because there's still slavery in Africa today, where they're castrating people because they can't reproduce. So I'm just it's just like, you're free now. You've never been a slave. You never experienced this, and you just kind of like, man, my slavery was the worst. Black slavery was the worst. Feel sorry for me, my group. We can't succeed, when that's not the case. We have so much opportunity, and it just seems black culture now has adopted my slavery was the worst mindset and can't get out of park. I get it. Our struggles were unique, but what does that prevent you from doing now?
What I want people to stop doing is that when they hear data and historical pinpoints, that the go-to word is victimization.
Well, you haven't proved anything else. You've shown me. Well, your argument was literally, well, our slavery was the worst.
No, I didn't say that.
That was your argument.
No. I didn't say it was the worst. I said it was distinct.
Okay,
I said it was different.
Why are you making that?
That's what I'm saying. I'm making the argument because, for several reasons. One, I'm not discounting the other kinds of slavery. Slave comes the word Slavic. We understand about the different European versions of slavery. We understand about indentured servitude. We understand that. The difference with the transatlantic slave trade is that it was far more expansive. It was a LLC. It was a business.
And who fought to end it?
Well, hold on. And when you have insurance companies that are in existence today, Aetna and Cigna wrote slave policies. These slave policies actually helped to underwrite Georgetown and Harvard, which are still standing today. When you think about slavery, it wasn't just that you just owned people. It's that you really were a fiduciary object. Your slavery was also hereditary, meaning that it wasn't just you were owned, is your grandfather and your great-great-great-grandfather were owned by a family, right? You could lease a slave to another plantation. So it's the kind. Listen, there's all. I don't want to say something vulgar, but unaliving someone is historical. Somebody could be unalived in a different country. It doesn't stop it from being a wrong and despicable act. We don't give it a pass. And the difference with Black American slavery is that it didn't just stop and you were ushered into whiteness. Now, when I say ushered into whiteness, I'm saying phenotypically white. I'm saying white status, first class citizenship. You were not given that. You went into second, if not third class citizenship. So your slavery follows you into the 20th century. So when
are you a first class? Are you a first class, second class, or third class citizen?
I'm being very, very clear here. When you can see someone in 1955, 20th century, atomic age, I Love Lucy's on, right? This is a sophisticated society. You're on a bus. You could be a Black accountant. A white plumber comes up to you and says, "Hey, boy, you got to get out. You got to get out my seat. You got to go in the back." He sees your African features, and he knows who and where you come from. In 1955, 80 years after slavery was abolished. That is the difference between global slavery and Americanized slavery, where your slavery, your status still follows you well into a modern society. There's a difference. We can't get around that. You give that a pass? That's negative income growth.
So why is it then that?
And it's not victimization. I'm just giving you facts, man.
Why is it then that it's the effects skipped a generation in order to be felt on the Black community? So, for example, when slavery ended, why was the Black family more intact then? Why were there more Black businesses? Why was there more Black independence? Why did Blacks have their own transportation system and education systems and their own communities, churches, and all of those things? Why did it skip a couple of generations actually to wait till the 20s and 30s and 40s and really the 60s to then take effect? And now we have all these talking points of how bad slavery was. Why did it take so long? And why did it skip all these things for you now to have all this information, this all knowledge, and be all knowing? And why didn't it affect those Blacks? Why didn't it affect those communities? Why didn't it affect that generation?
You have to be more clear with me, because look, we understand that in segregated societies, there were Black folks that were doing quite well, right? The augmentation of the middle class started happening, let's say between mid 40s and mid 60s. Like after World War II, you started seeing a gain for America, and it did not stop with African Americans, but we still had hindrances even there. We weren't allowed to take advantage of the GI Bill. We know of the what's the town?
You're not answering my question. I'm asking, why is it that Blacks immediately following slavery did better in every perceivable metric? Families, ownership, business, economics, faith. Why did it take almost 100 years? Why did it take almost 100 years for this victimization mindset and our unique form of slavery arguments to then take root and take over?
Okay, I could answer your question, but when you position it as victimization, this is a constant talking point when I'm just stating what happened.
I'm just stating facts, bro.
What happened is not, there's so many other folks that have gone through things, they never get that victim pejorative, right? What you're asking me is a somewhat complicated question, because yes, there were pockets of Black success. Tulsa, very proud of it, but you saw what happened there. The Wilmington Massacre in 1898 was a proto Tulsa that was worse in some regards, right? There have been Rosewood, we can go all down the lines. There was eminent domain in New York. You had Seneca Village that was now Central Park. Black people did not have the autonomy that you say they had. We were allowed to have certain movement, and then it was taken away by force. The Red Summer of 1919, right? I mean, we can go on. There were there were all kinds of labor union riots when blacks were looking to, when white folks didn't want to work next to black people and they thought they were getting some advantages, they cut that out. Yes, you had black success. Yes, you had black families intact. I used to call him Dr. Cosby. I can't revere him like I used to, but Cosby had a book called Come On People with Dr. Alvin Poussant, the late Dr. Alvin Poussant, who I interviewed on my own show. He passed about 2 years ago. They were very succinct about black families being actually over-indexing in comparison to white families being attacked up until the late 50s. But when we could talk about the Moynihan Report, what happened in the 60s, the programs, that had a lot of deleterious effect on the black family. And it actually, if you want to be more succinct on it, we're always called the canaries in the coal mine. That the issues that were affecting black people in 1965, where we had about a 20% out of wedlock rate, caused alarm. Think about this in 1967, 68, right? But we would kill to have those numbers now. Now, whites are about, or even more than when we were in 1968 as far as their out of wedlock births, but they're not calling it a dysfunction. It was called a dysfunction in 1968 to have 20%. Whites are now around 35% out of wedlock births. So we have to understand that it's not all about victimization. I'm not saying that when we talk about slavery and civil rights, there was a whole lot of things that had to happen for us to get to where we are now. And as even though things were better in some regards, we are wealthier. If you look at the metrics, blacks are the poverty rate is lower. There's a lot of things that are better post civil rights, but there are mistakes. Dr. King said I might have led my people into a burning house. He did say that. We should have kept our internal fiscal businesses culturally, and then also had access, if you wanted to the majority culture. But there should not have been, we give up our black businesses because the white water is colder. That therein lies the mistake. But trying to make this seem as if 1920 to 1960 was like, there's a lot of death, a lot of black pockets of wealth and communities that were decimated. Once we saw black folks with furs, you can look at the pictures. Blacks were standing in front of banks. They had insurance companies, 30 square blocks. This is the second town in American history that was bombed from a height. Bombed from a height in American
blacks
soil.
make their own bombs?
Come on, bro. You asking a lot from someone coming from slavery. First you're asking for us to make insurance companies. We have insurance.
Are you admitting that blacks are incapable of doing these things? So blacks are incapable of protecting themselves. Blacks are incapable of building an arsenal to protect themselves. Blacks are incapable of creating banks and insurance companies to insure themselves. Is that what you're suggesting?
No, what I'm suggesting
you're saying because of slavery we can't do these things.
No, what I'm suggesting is we have to be fair about where we came from and how we arrived at that point.
All right, man. Appreciate your time on here, man. We'll have to have you back, man.
Let me make this one point. Let me make this one last point.
We got a couple of people coming on. All right, guys. All right.
He was not on the topic. He veered off the topic.
We're way off topic. But I think Terrence is back. Terrence, what you got, man?
Well, the main point we have to remember is slavery never ended. And the proof of it is all you have to do is Google Dred Scott decision, where the Supreme Court of the United States says slavery is still in full effect. And you talk about the victim. What do you say about blacks being victims again, brother?
I mean, that's the default narrative, it seems.
Yeah.
No, it's not a narrative. It's called a reality. We're completely ruined and destroyed people.
Well, I refuse to believe that, man. Shout out to Just My 4 Cents with a $5 super chat. Years of black fatigue destroyed any empathy blacks may have had in the past. People are generally tired of black people. And
why is it Why is it that the United States government admits to cooking up crack cocaine and AIDS and delivering it to the black community? That's
Why
called
is it that
addiction.
black people said, yes, I'm going to do it?
Yeah, basically.
Because they've been ruined as a human being. You're making my
By
point.
who? By who?
By
Who
who?
allows you to do it?
By white people in themselves.
So are you prescribing that whites are superior right now? Are you saying whites have that much power in
I
order to
don't.
do these things to black people?
They have that power. I don't remember saying they're superior. You
So
make a lot of
so then
assumptions.
we have no hope then. What you're suggesting is that there is no hope, right?
You, I,
If whites are like this, if whites are these all powerful and we're just demanding that they be compassionate,
I
right?
never
Then
said
there's no hope.
that.
There's,
That's your,
what you
those are your words. I never said none of that stuff.
you
You're
just
making,
suggested it
you're
right
making
now.
You're suggesting it.
assumptions. I never said any of that. Now
You ain't have to say it.
you can ask me a question, but don't say that I say are assumed or insinuated or implied. I did none of the sort.
Well, let me ask. If there was crack in front of you right now, do you
There,
have to
there,
pick
there's
it
two
up and do it?
questions. Okay. Now,
Do you have to pick it up and do it?
black people do
No,
because
no, no,
they've
no,
been.
no, 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 no.
We talking about you.
You.
You're not letting me answer. I'm just an
No.
individual. I'm not 22 million people.
Okay, okay, but 22 million people is made up of 22 million individuals. So let me ask
I know that.
you right there, you sitting behind the
No,
computer screen or phone where you are. If there was some crack in front of
no,
you,
I'm not the
do you?
problem. Black people are the problem. I'm not the problem. A
I'm asking.
psychological.
I'm asking. Let's say it's a white person and a black person sitting next to each other. If there's a piece of crack in front of both of
You're
them,
you're
does
trivializing. You're
does does,
trivializing the situation.
does
What you
either
have
one
to
of
do,
them have to pick it up?
what you have to do is look at the Godfather movie and
Why is this is a simple question. Simple question. Simple answer.
no, it's
If
too
there
damn simple.
if there's crack in
We don't
front of
need a
you,
simple question. We need a solution. Look at the
if there
God.
hold on,
Look
man,
at the God.
I'm gonna have to put you off if you can't answer the question.
You run
If you
from the
if,
truth. You
if
being a nigga. You being a nigga and running from the truth, man.
all right, yeah, let's get this guy. I mean, I don't understand what's so hard. Like my name is Logic. My name is Logic. 1 + 1 is 2. You don't have to explain, well, one was created by some white man in the forest, and I really don't like the number one. I think that's racist. No, you don't have to do all that. One, if we have one and we add another one, does it equal 2? Well, the white man just came up with these numbers, and then they came up with the plus symbol, and the plus symbol was racist, and that symbolized that plus symbol is actually just a cross turned on its side and then shortened. Bro, I'm done.
Listen, logic, listen. Basically, they like the African said on the video, they don't want to take accountability. Everything is somebody else did it to us, and that's why this is why we are where we at.
And Kung Fu, I'm really, really not. I'm sitting here. I'm trying not to suggest it's all black people.
No, it's not.
I'm really not sitting here trying to suggest. And again, I started off. I am curious. I'm just an innocent bystander. Maybe not innocent, but definitely a bystander. I'm an observer. I'm watching. I'm seeing these things, and I've seen it in my own life. It's just like, again, as a kid, I was told, because you're smart, you're not representing blacks. You're making us look bad, and I don't understand what that means as a culture. Like, it's just, to me, it doesn't make sense. But guys, we way over time, and I did a solo show by myself. Like, appreciate you coming on, CJ. It's Kung Fu CJ, and wow, like 2 hours, and my wife's mad at me right now because we're supposed to be at a party an hour ago.
Oh man, I apologize.
Yeah, no, you're good, man. But these people came on. I wanted to have some fun tonight, man. I appreciate you. So I just realized I maybe can do a show by myself, and I don't know, but definitely need to just the guys with me. So shout out to everybody in the chat. So if you're new here, Shout out to Travis, Momo, Sir L. I don't know, certain Sir L. S Files, Rational Morality. Yeah, man. Yeah, whoever. Yeah, man. Yeah, y'all been chiming in today. But make sure you guys hit the like button, share the stream. Support the channel, join the Shamers Club, guys. We got some big stuff coming out with Metro Conservative Media in 2026. We are really launching the Metro Conservative Media platform, where you can all catch all the content. We're going to do written pieces and articles and everything will be on the Metro Conservative Media platform. So make sure you bookmark metroconservativemedia.com. Don't go there right now. The site's kind of broken, but bookmark metroconservativemedia.com and just keep tuned. Watch for more. Kung Fu, any last words? I know you got some streams.
Oh man. Basically, I don't know if you all know. I have a Christian show, so L.A. Marzulli will be on there next month, along with Mondo Gonzalez, who will talk about the red heifers in reference to Israel, and Derek Gilbert, who will also talk about Genesis, basically creation before Genesis. And thanks for having me on, brother.
Man, you the MCM super fan, man. So I appreciate you joining on, man. I love you too, Momo. Appreciate that. But again, like, share, subscribe to Just the Guys podcast, and remember, only monkeys litter. Peace.
Out.